First of all, let's talk about compatibility when it comes to people with their nodes. This is my thought. So, let's say, because your natal north node and south node, so the north node is where you're going, your destiny, the pathway to fulfillment and evolution, and the south node is what you're releasing, what you're moving away from, or at least the shadow side qualities of the south node that you're trying to release in order to move up into your north node and destiny. So the south node comes very familiar to you. It's what you're used to. And it's sort of a place to land, but ultimately, if you want to go big in this lifetime, then aim towards your north node. So that's just a gist about the north node. Of course, it all depends on what signs your natal north node and south node are in, and really, it's all 180 degrees because the nodes travel. The south node and north node travel together, and they're always in opposite signs. Now, if you have a relationship with somebody whose south node is conjunct to your north node and vice versa, so your north node is on their south node, and your south node is the same sign or conjunct the north node. Now, what I mean by this is, let's say you were born under a certain placement. In my case, I have my north node in Taurus and my south node in Scorpio. So then I would be in relationship with somebody who would have their north node in Scorpio and south node in Taurus. So it would be exactly opposite, 9 years from when the nodes were transiting Taurus and Scorpio. And this person can have the nodes flipped around. So the node's in the opposite signs. The south node is in the opposite sign of your natal south node, and the same goes with the north node. Now, when this happens with, two people, either they both, the nodes north is on the south and the south is on the north in the same signs as each other. Or what could also work out is it could be conjunct. So you were born with your nodes in a certain placement at a certain degree, and that person has their north node and south node, in those signs at that same or around the same degree. And that becomes really powerful because in my mind, when you're thinking about two people coming together and let's say a soulmate, let's say a long-term, long-lasting relationship between two people, that relationship must have growth where you can become more than you are, you can learn from the other person. Because the gift of being in a relationship with somebody who has their north node and south node opposite you is that you learn from them, and they're teaching you what they've already mastered, and what's familiar to them, what's easy to them, what they've sort of gone through in previous lifetimes, if you believe that. So they're teaching you what they know and what they come from. And they're so used to that, and they're so good at that. They have these so natural talents. They're natural talents and abilities, and a super developed part of their persona and identity. And their soul, cosmic blueprint, which is what astrology is of what of who they are. And so they're teaching that to you when you're going on this particular path, and so you are learning from them, and while they are learning from you because their north node is in the sign that your south node is in, and so you're also teaching and guiding and inspiring and possibly empowering them. So it's sort of, both ways where there's a give and take, um, in that kind of relationship. And I personally would prefer that kind of relationship than a long-term close relationship with somebody whose nodes are the same sign as you. I mean, it can depend on how many planets that they have in the sign that the North Node is in their natal chart. For instance, their North Node, um, you could have the same placement to people who have their North Node in Aquarius, and both of them have a lot of planets, or one has a lot of planets in Aquarius, so that can sort of help the other and help that person move in that direction, which is their North Node, which is their North Star. But I definitely think that maybe with the South Node, you can, sort of, it's the same old, same old. It's super familiar. You're learning the same lessons, and it's kind of like, well, it's nice for a time, but it may get tiring, and you may want to, move away from the person, where you're sort of swimming around in a fishbowl, not really getting, not really, expanding. It's so much of the same that is sort of irritating after a while, when two people of the same nodes are together super close. And I can't say that because I'm not an expert in this particular area. That is just my personal opinion. That I have tremendous respect for the people who have their North Node in Scorpio, which is opposite my North Node. And I know of a lot of people who have that placement. More people, in fact, as opposed to the people who have the North Node in Taurus. And I'm going to film a video about the North Node in Scorpio, which I'm very excited to film, because the North Node in Scorpio is a topic that I'm very curious about in terms of the transit and the natal chart placement. I really, I just want to learn more about it, and I'm just so curious to learn all the different aspects, especially that South Node piece, because what it comes down to is for me personally, for the South Node in Taurus, I'm going to be getting Astrology for the Soul by Jan Spiller, which is a quintessential book on the lunar nodes in astrology. And I don't have that book, but I'm going to get it because I'm super curious, and she really goes into great detail about the lunar nodes. So the South Node in Taurus relates to really having the need to do it on your own, be self-sufficient, stability and security. You're coming in, if you're born with the South Node in Scorpio, you're coming in with the innate need for stability and security. And, the downside is there can be a rigidity. You don't want risk. You don't want to get out of your comfort zone. The South Node is already your comfort zone. And with Taurus energy, it relates to this, where you're so enmeshed in the earthly pleasures in the present moment. However, that's the positive side of the South Node. The downside is carrying a huge bunch of stuff on your back. And if you could just release all that and see the rainbow on the top of the mountain and see the beauty that it has to provide, there's really something special about releasing those material possessions. Because both, whether you have your South Node in Scorpio or Taurus, both relate to being attached to something that you are holding onto so tightly, and both nodes relate to coming to a place inside of yourself of peace, and you're releasing those attachments. Because when it comes to Buddhism, all suffering, the desire is the root of all suffering, and all suffering comes from attachment. So, for those who have their South Node in Taurus, if they can, release, the more that they can, possibly find the courage and find the pathway to giving away their stuff and merging their power with another person. And I really don't want people to have a surface level understanding of this of the North Node in Scorpio, because it is not just about sharing and getting along with others. That's where we get to Libra North Node. This is about really tapping into just that person's soul essence of who they are, and connecting with another person in a really deep and profound way, and not doing it alone. It's about tuning in to your environment and being receptive and being open-hearted, um, in a lot of great ways, and being willing to transform, let go, and being willing to take some kind of risk. That's what the placement ultimately relates to. But there's so much more. But with this placement, you can help another person. You can empower somebody else to with really practical, doing very practical things with your South Node and Taurus, because you're using that South Node and Taurus talent in a North Node fashion. So you are, collaborating and deeply connecting with another person, but giving them a lot of practical tools to become more capable to pursue whatever they want to pursue, to do what they want to do. In so many different ways, and so maybe that could be why I know of so many Taurus, South nodes, because it is their sort of destiny in life is to be there for another person, and maybe there's so many doors opening up to me that there's these people who are sort of going to be there, sort of help me as I'm moving towards Taurus, which relates to connecting with the present moment, being more self-sufficient, being more true to my value. So many different themes with the sign of Taurus that are super huge. And also, when the North Node originally entered Taurus, the very first day, the day that it entered Taurus, I got a job. I had a job, a temporary job. Um, it was called True Value, believe it or not. And it was such a coincidence, being that the North Node was in Taurus at the 29th degree. The 29th degree is the most developed, most mature, most advanced um, degree, and it's sort of a culmination of what you've learned and how you've evolved. And of course, the nodes move backwards. They enter a sign at 29 degrees, they leave a sign at 1 or 0 degrees, and then they move to the 29th degree of that previous sign that they are moving back through. So the store was called True Value. And that's the whole thing with Taurus is leaning into your truth, and your authenticity. Um, and the North Node in Aries also relates to that as well. And I also have two terms to talk about, and those particular terms that I have, that one of them I've created and invented. The other I've had the other is a real thing, and it is expresses the first term. And sometime I like to say this. You're expressing yourself. You're showing yourself. But then, I came up with a term that is expressing, but it is not for somebody. It isn't with somebody. And that term is, if you can take the express in the word and then put an H on one of the S's, you get express. And that's the term I sort of, came up with to mean the energy that you have when you're going into fight, when you're going into um, argue a position against somebody, and you're using these certain tools and these certain sources for your argument. When I say express, I mean going against somebody, not being for somebody, but almost like you're trying to prove something to somebody. Almost like you're trying to teach somebody else a lesson about how do you want them to learn and grow and be a better person because of something that they perhaps did or said that, was wrong and was, mean or whatever. Express then would be, in that case, the opposite, where you are with somebody, where you're on the same side as somebody, where you're supporting somebody. You are in agreement with, with somebody, and you like them for their, opinions, beliefs, thoughts, what they have to say and do, um, and you want to use them um, to then express somebody. Um, you know, and you're just with them on a heart level. You are with them. Um, that's what I can say. So, express is against somebody, and then at the express energy. I just want to talk about those couple, energies, and this is just in general where you can have being really open-hearted and open-minded and really holding space for this particular person, and you like them, you're drawn to them, you genuinely want to be with them. That's the energy of express. It's a much kinder energy. The energy of express is the energy that you have when you want to, again, prove something to somebody, and you want to prove something wrong. You want to show them, like, oh, I want to show them. Um, you want to, and it doesn't have to be argumentative. Let's just say you don't like this particular person on YouTube. So instead, when they go live, you're going to choose to watch somebody else instead of them. Where you, don't like, don't care for that particular, person, and who they are, how they put themselves out there. So you watch somebody else. It's sort of an example of what this means, in um, what I'm implying here with this, and what I'm getting at here. Um, and I'm not just making this up here to make myself feel good. I have Mercury in Taurus. When I make things up, it's pretty logical, and it's practical, and it's rooted in truth. Um, so, I did create the term express, but I did not make up the definition for the word because, let's face it, we all feel that way at certain times about certain people in certain situations, and let's admit to that. So, I just wanted to differentiate that for you. So, bye for now.